Morning, all. What better way to start the day than talk about the rather ugly parts of the history of the Arizona Coyotes? So I started this with the Ducks. We're going to move on to Arizona, and I'm wearing absolute beautifulness that is the Arizona um, cactus jersey. I'm again, and this is one that I had to have. I absolutely had to have this jersey when I was putting my collection together because look at it. It's covered in cactus. There's cacti everywhere, and it's hideous, and it's the Coyotes. I want to see this in an Adidas at some point just to see how Adidas designers could potentially save it. And the Coyotes, for most of their history, it's been kind of ugly. That's the reason I'm wearing the ugly side of the jerseys for this series. So, and I think that's kind of a fun idea too. Because I know when I was doing the all-time best, I was trying to find jerseys that I thought were really nice jerseys from each team's history, and now I'm going to find the ugly ones. So, and for Arizona, the odd thing is, as much as we talk about the lows and the things this team's gone through, and they haven't had sustained success throughout their existence, their longest drought is the one they're currently in, 2013 to 2019, outside the playoffs. And it looked like 2020 was going to be added, and that would be 8 seasons. We talk a lot about rebuilds, and all right, so a smart rebuild is, and I think wisdom is basically that around year 4, you're outside the playoffs. All right, now that should be at year 5. You should be back in. If you're not back into the playoffs in year 5, your rebuild either A wasn't planned very well at the start, or it's not working. So for Arizona, they should be climbing their way out. They should be getting into a playoff spot. So the frustration of Arizona fans that don't come out to games as often as people might like is understandable. And this is something I've said in many videos, that Arizona, Florida, and Carolina, those are 3 franchises that don't make the playoffs a lot. So yes, they do struggle with attendance. They also don't make the playoffs. Once we have a successful franchise in any of those 3 locations for an extended period and fans still don't come out, then you can have a discussion about whether or not it's a hockey market. Now, in and amongst all of the missing the playoffs that's gone on, Mike Smith, they're losing his goaltender with 132, and it's painful to put his name up there because Smith has not been the worst goaltender they've had, not even close. Smith kind of rediscovered his game in Arizona after a tough go of it in Tampa. Now, with lost asset, this is where the Winnipeg Jets show up, because the Winnipeg Jets and the Arizona Coyotes share that history, and it's always interesting to me to look at both. So with Carolina, you look at Hartford. With the Nordiques and the Avalanche, you make that comparison as well. So, and with Minnesota / Dallas, you have that comparison. So here, when I did the lost asset, to me, obviously with the Jets, Teemu Selanne is your lost asset. He is the player who you look at and say, all right, so Selanne should have been a Jet for his whole career. And that's just reality, that if the Jets had the money to keep him, he likely would have stuck around. And they had to trade him. They just didn't have the finances to keep him around. And Arizona really wouldn't have either. And Daniel Briere, I put up as the guy that Phoenix / Arizona lost, that they probably would have wished that they'd kept. He went on to Buffalo and had a pretty good go of it in Buffalo. So he really hit that next level there. Now, short-term coaches, here we're going to see usually either general managers or interim. So we're going to see coaches that just aren't around for very long. But we will see coaches who are short-term because they got fired. I'm thinking when we get to Tampa, Barry Melrose may show up. I'm thinking when we get to Vancouver, there's some infamous names with Vancouver. So Ferguson is the shortest term coach over both teams' existences, 14 games and a 7-6-1 record. What gets interesting is Rick Bowness showed up, and it said 1989 to 2004, and I'm like, okay, so he didn't coach on and off between those 15 years. But he coached 28 games for the Winnipeg Jets, and then he coached 15 years. He coached 20 games for the Arizona Coyotes. So it was Phoenix at the time. And so, yeah, his combined record as coach behind the bench of the Coyotes and Jets, 10, 29, 6, and 3. So Rick Bowness, while he's got this good record with Dallas and things have looked pretty good, honestly, his record with other teams, there were some shaky teams along the way. I remember his record in Ottawa. And again, I know Ottawa was bad, but still, his overall win-loss record as a coach, he's had to deal with some pretty poor teams in front of him. Now, the not in the hall category, again, these are retired players in the top 10 lists of teams when it comes to wins and points. And it has to be a retired player, can't be a current player. Shane Doan is not in the hall. He's their number one scorer of all time. Does he end up in the Hall of Fame? I'm leaning towards probably not, but I'm interested to know your thoughts on that. Ilya Brizgalov, of course, their wins leader that's not in the Hall of Fame, and I can't see him getting in unless they have most colorful character as a category to get you into the Hall of Fame. In which case, that should be like the Eddie Shack Award, most colorful character in the NHL. Maybe I just invented an award while I'm talking. Maybe I did. So, yeah, Brizgalov, always great for a quote. I'm leaving if you move this team to Winnipeg. That kind of thing. He's a funny guy. So, wasn't considered funny by Winnipeg fans. Anyways, year 1 and year 11, which is also something I'm doing for this, where I compare the first year of a team's existence to the 11th season. And because I think over a 10-year period, seeing where was this team in its 11th year compared to its first, I think that's an interesting look. Now, coming over from the WHA, the original Jets, 79-80, they finished 20, 49, and 11, 51 points. They, of course, got absolutely destroyed when they came in. The dispersal draft that took place where NHL teams went, we'll take that guy, we'll take that guy. Although, there was one or two who had left as well. Before the Winnipeg Jets came into the NHL. So, it was a rough year for them. 89-90, so a decade later, 37, 32, and 11 for 85 points. So, pretty decent season. Again, this is before you had the 3-point games. They end up 5 games above 500. 96-97, their first year in the desert. 38, 37, and 7 for 83 points. And then I did a double take, because you have the lockout, wiped out season of 04-05. So their 11th season was 2007-2008. 38, 37, and 7 for 83 points. So if you want an indication of just how long the Coyotes have been, that's it. That's it. And I mean, they weren't horrible, but they weren't great either. There weren't any big runs. 2012 is as close to a really big run as you get with the Arizona Coyotes. So, lowest point percentage against any one team, the Boston Bruins, 309 winning percentage. I don't have on this list the least amount of wins that a team has against another, because then it's just going to be completely skewed towards just Vegas. It's just going to be Vegas every time. But Vegas shows up on here anyways. Goals for per game, they've only scored 2.33 in any game against Vegas. Now against Minnesota, they've scored 2.46. So again, where Vegas shows up on the board, I will include the team that's behind them, because the sample size against Vegas is going to be too small. Now, goals against per game, the most they've allowed, that's against Montreal, 4.05. So yeah, it's been an interesting and rather remarkable run for the Jets/Coyotes. I'm thinking that 4.05 is going to be mostly the Jets in the 80s, who allowed a lot of goals. Lowest points per game played, minimum of 100 games played. So again, we're going to see a lot of enforcers in here, which I think is just fine. I think it's just fine to talk about the enforcers because, again, when it comes to scoring, most enforcers will admit, I didn't score a lot of points. Sean Cronin the Barbarian, .073 points per game. He wasn't there for points. Jim Kite, .09. Jimmy Mann, .104. Now, Jimmy Mann was expected to score a little bit more before he came up to the NHL, but he could fight. And Dean Kennedy, .14 points per game. Now, I had top 5 for Anaheim, but in this case, I dropped it to top 4, and I included, those are the Winnipeg Jets, top 4, and now it's the Arizona Coyotes. Louis DeBrusk, .061. Louis, if you're watching, you beat Cronin the Barbarian for the all-time lowest points per game. .061. Jones, .104. Luke Shen, .106. And Bissonnette. Biz Nasty is not at the lowest. He is at .112. Take that, Louis DeBrusk. So again, we're going to see Enforcers, more often than not, there were people who suggested, hey, you should put up how much ice time they got. These are enforcers. Enforcers didn't get ice time. It was not unusual to see at the end of the night these guys had 10 penalty minutes and they were on the ice for 4. So that's not, that's how it is. And it's fun to look at. Now, lowest save percentage, minimum of 50 games played. Keep in mind, the Winnipeg Jets, the Arizona Coyotes, have had their defensive problems. Brian Hayward, 864 save percentage for the Winnipeg Jets. Ed Staniowski, 866. So those are low save percentages, admittedly. I didn't think Hayward was that bad, so that number tells me the defense in front of him was. Now, on the Arizona side of things, there's 3 goaltenders tied with an 898. Curtis Joseph, yep. Michael Telquist, and Brian Boucher. All with the lowest mark of 898 among any goaltender that played 50 games for the Arizona Coyotes or more. And the goalie with the best name, how could I not go with Zach Bierk? Zach Bierk is, to me, the best name of any goaltender who played there. Yes, Darcy Wakaluk played there. I have a funny feeling when I get to Dallas, Darcy Wakaluk could get mentioned more than once. Because he really has the best name. And when we get into the lower save percentages, Wakaluk may end up in there. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. But we'll see. So there you go. The low points of the Arizona Coyotes. And it really illustrates how desperately they need to start cultivating a winning franchise and a winning environment. I would think that it'd be frustrating as a player to go that many years without the playoffs. I would think it was frustrating for Shane Doan, as much as he loved the city, and he still does, and just the area and the franchise, not to have had that success to reward the hardcore fan base that does still show up. It is easy to focus on empty seats. It is harder to focus on the people who do show up every night, who do have season tickets, and put up with this. Say, yeah, all right, well, we've missed the playoffs 7 years in a row, but I'll take more. So, there is something to be said for those people, that hardcore fan base that still shows up and still supports the team. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. As always, stay home, stay safe as much as you can. Don't forget to wash your hands. Hey, thank you guys so much for all your support throughout all of this, and I will talk to you again soon.